All right, guys. Before we say anything, I just want to say whoever watched that first video, that's awesome. I really appreciate you. Whoever liked it, that's awesome. I really appreciate you. Without wasting any time, though, today there was a really awesome announcement, and that would be for Transformers Overgear. And I didn't really, anticipate talking about, any of that so soon. I didn't really know what this channel would be, but me and my roommate are massive collectors, so seeing this and like the awesome designs, and I'm gonna be putting those images up on screen for you guys to look at throughout the video. But I absolutely can't wait. So we've been talking about it a lot today, and what are your thoughts about it?
Well, one of the things that I was surprised about is that I saw like the background or the silhouette images of them for a while ago, and I didn't expect them to be announced so soon. And I am overall really relatively surprised with how they turned out and the fact that they're going to be a lot more detailed than I thought they were going to be. I think that the kind of combination of styles that they're going with is going to be really interesting, and I do hope they end up doing more, assuming that these do well and all those.
I couldn't agree more. One of the big things that is on our mind, as well as I know your minds as well, is what is his scaling going to be? And I've actually got a masterpiece blackout here. I don't know the actual sizing on it, but it's a pretty hefty figure, and obviously this is Blackout. Blackout is one of the two figures that was announced. I couldn't tell you the exact name of that helicopter mode. It's some sort of stealth, but it looks awesome. I don't know if it's as awesome as this, but put it up to the camera. But one of the things that really stood out to me, as well as my roommate, is the level of detail. So, like, you could maybe mention that.
So it's going to be, originally I thought that it was going to be one of the smaller sized, just like something along that, going to be kind of chunky. And it was interesting to see that they weren't going with that. And so it's going to be interesting to see they've kind of talked about the scaling of it. And they didn't say that it was going to be a masterpiece like that. But they did say that it was going to be in the scale of the alternators, which is something else that we have here. But I find it interesting that they said alternators because for a lot of the masterpieces, those are about the same size. And so I don't know if it's just going to be like smaller robot modes, but still decently sized alt modes, or how that's going to end up working out.
And to clarify a little bit more about the alternator size comparison, there was a guy who actually was able to see these firsthand, and he compared the size to that of an alternator. As he just mentioned, we have several masterpieces, and they're comparable in size to the alternator line that I wouldn't know the exact date, but I believe it was like in '05 or '04 that they, stopped making those. So it's been a really long time, right? And to kind of see that level of detail coming back, that's awesome. I do know for Ironhide, I remember, years ago, back whenever I was like in high school, I've always kind of been a Ford guy and like the Ford Raptors, and seeing that they're making it a Hennessy 6x6 V8 Raptor is awesome. And I think it's like a Velociraptor. Obviously I don't know the exact specifics, but
Well, I remember even, in our earlier days of college, just us talking about what would be cooler versions for some of these characters to turn into. We
absolutely.
definitely talked about Ironhide turning into a Ford
A
Raptor, which would
Ford
be a
Raptor has
perfect.
been on my list, and seeing that it's a Ford 6x6 Raptor is awesome. I can't even. And that Ironhide alone is actually what led us to kind of the conclusion that maybe they would be MPM scales. So you kind of had an idea on that with the legs, and obviously looking at the legs, they're very detailed. The arms have ratchet joints. Obviously, there's leaders and Voyagers even that have these ratchet joints, but like, I don't know about at that level. So, but what do you think about it?
I think in terms of the solidness of the figure, like you were talking about, like the quality of those
Right.
joints and things like that, it definitely points towards more of a figure, if that makes sense. Because even with the alternator, I know we haven't messed with it too much, but that wouldn't be one that we would consider, like in terms of like the arm joints and things like that, like one of the heavier, more solid figures. And since they are going with that, I think that's going to be perfect, and it's a good look for the rest of the line if they end up doing anything.
Yeah, I absolutely couldn't agree more. And I mean, that blackout mode, obviously, we're gonna have to address that. That is amazing. I one of the first thoughts that I mentioned to my roommate is that it kind of looks like a why am I forgetting the name for it? A
Gundam.
Gundam. Yeah, it
There
looks
you
like a
go.
Gundam. And I've never really been into Gundam. I don't collect any Gundams. He has a few Gundams. Ton of Transformers. He's a huge Transformer guy. Got me into it. I have a few myself. That Blackout masterpiece being one of them. Seeing him in that first movie. I mean, come on, dude. I was like 6 years old. Megan Fox, Blackout, Bumblebee. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was amazing. And just seeing a completely different interpretation on a character that never really appeared in, I don't know, really anything else other than animated and live action in one animated show. You know?
Well, and to that end, with they kind of have a multiple different design themes going on with these. One of these being more realistic Bayverse type things with the alt modes and things like that. And then you have a little bit of the inspiration from some of the Energon stuff with Ironhide's particular face sculpt, and then also the Gundam overall look of the legs and arms and the torso size of Blackout. I think is
Right.
just going to be really really interesting.
Yeah, and one of the things that I love about Blackout's mode is that it's kind of been apparent in the recent past that a lot of the robot modes are trying to hide as much kibble as possible, and you just got the full wings sticking out on the shoulder with all of the missiles untransformed. You got the pilot section in the middle of the chest. Obviously, that's not unique, but the way that they did it is amazing. And one of the things that I actually saw somebody mention about the Ironhide figure, which is really neat and made me like it a little bit more, is that the windshield placement that is like kind of right here is reminiscent of G1 Ironhide, which is pretty cool.
Oh, it's interesting. I hadn't necessarily put that together yet.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that we were talking about too is what color are these going to be? Like, he's guessing straight green for both of them. I really want Ironhide to be red or black. Black would be awesome. Red would be even better.
Well, and with the design of the face not being I want to say uber realistic, like I said, more towards the cartoons and stuff like that. I think that definitely does open the door in general for some of the I want to say less not realistic colors, but some of the older cartoon colors, things like that. I think he would be really cool red. I just don't. We'll have to see how militarized they are, and obviously with that Ford, it's got that massive minigun on the back and things like that. And so it'll just be like if they make it a military co-opted Ford, or the other way.
Right, because obviously it's a military vehicle, right? But then you kind of got to get into if they're going for realism. There's not going to be a Hennessy 6x6 truck loaded up to the brim out in a war zone. So
Yeah.
that kind of, I don't know if it wedges opening for characters like, just to throw one out, Sunstreaker, right? He's usually a Lambo. Like, could we get a militarized Lamborghini? You know? And I only say that because again, like you're not going to be seeing a Hennessy 6x6 anywhere on the battle zone. And obviously, Blackout is a total contradiction of that, right? It is a straight helicopter. Obviously, I don't know enough about helicopters to know if that's been modified, but compared to the truck, it's a night and day modification difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me wonder, like, are they going to keep that theme? Like, are the Autobots going to be normal cars that have been, revamped and militarized, whereas the Decepticons are just kind of like, themselves. Like Starscream might literally, be not necessarily an F-22 again, but could be a totally different type of jet, but not be over the top, like militarized, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so to that end, with the certain design choices of the blackout helicopter mode, I would think that there's almost no chance at all of blackout being anything other than green or black, or maybe gray, things like that. But it's
Yeah.
because it's so close, I can't see it being a more vibrant color.
Right. I think black or green for sure.
Mm.
And I would not, and it would be interesting even if they went with the blue, same shade as blackout right now. I doubt
Yeah.
it. I highly doubt it. Even for going back all the way to the sizing and the scaling being similar to alternators. Again, this is just word of mouth, right? I haven't seen them. I don't know. I am guessing that they are around masterpiece scale, but that is from the detail alone. And if they're not, and if they're like Voyager to leader class, dude, like they've blown it out of the water. They have made improvements beyond what I ever thought imaginable, especially after seeing some of these, new gamer editions over the past few years, and some of
Yeah,
these
a
new,
lot of those are rough.
they're pretty bad, right? And then you got like the new Studio Series Barricade, asking for that for forever. It's not awful, but you look at it and you're just kind of like,
It's almost awful.
it's almost awful.
It's
That's a good way to
close
put it.
enough to not make it completely terrible, but I saw it because after waiting for that for forever, and then went,
Right.
and especially with the price increases,
right.
and so it's going to be interesting to see where these Overgear figures land at. If those are going to be masterpiece, that means pretty easily 150 up. And if it's alternator, that means less expensive, but I see it being more expensive
Yeah.
than $60 at least.
If you guys want to make a bet to me in the comments, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to bet any money. I don't do that. I'm broke, but no. I'm going to go with a $79.99, $79.99 price tag, $80 flat. I don't believe that they're going to be labeled as masterpieces, right? But I also wouldn't be shocked if they go up to like 120, right? And we see a 120 price tag where they're around a little bit bigger than a leader class.
Yeah, they're
what a
starting to
leader class
push it.
used to be. Yeah, you agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's also going to be interesting to see how they do, because once you start getting into that range, you're either at the same price range as masterpieces or the Titan classes, because all of those Titans
Right.
are $150, and so
Right.
it's like, yeah, those are much less simple, but you've got a lot more.
But
You
then
know.
you look at like 86 Optimus, Commander class, and you ask yourself, it's a good figure. It's sitting over there. We have it, but is it worth $90? And some would argue, yeah, it's got a trailer, it's got all these accessories, whatever. That's fine.
Well, I think actually, I think Ultra Magnus would have been the one that created the Commander class price point, because I don't remember really anyone
Right.
coming
No,
up
I think
beforehand.
that actually is
But I
correct.
think that even, the trailer's got some cool things in it and the blast effects or whatever, but it's like the figure itself is a leader class, and so that's 50, it used to be 55, now it's around 60. But if you're saying the trailer and those blast effects are worth $30, it's like, I don't know, that is starting to push it a little bit.
I agree. And, obviously I don't know that they're going to come with blast effects. I believe that
I would doubt it, honestly.
For like Ironhide, it's going to be his big old gun, his knife, the other two guns, for Blackout. I don't know if it's going to be like all of those, missile pods and all of that. I know that he had actually a big gun, so yeah, I guess that's what he's got. But I mean, yeah, waking up to that, I remember, yeah, he remembers like 2 years ago sitting in my room, and I'm like, how awesome it would be to have a line of Transformers that is military vehicles, not anything based on a Michael Bay movie or an '86 movie or Rise of the Beast or anything. It's not concept art. It's not anything. It's literally just its own standalone thing. Military vehicles. I mean, that actually is what got me into Transformers, really, is that I love, exotic cars, sports cars. He got me Sideswipe Studio Series for my birthday. Downhill from there. Never let your friend buy you a Transformer if you don't want to go broke in the next 3 years. But anyways, I don't know. Do you got anything to add?
Well, I was just gonna say was gonna liken it back to in terms of that $90 Commander price point because now that I think about it, I could see both of those being Commander classes.
Right.
That would kind of make a little bit of sense. It's a step in between Masterpiece or whatever. And to that end, the Ultra Magnus that we've got over there, I was extraordinarily happy with that figure.
Absolutely,
and
it's awesome.
It's like, yeah, it's a little expensive, but that's definitely, other than maybe literally the Masterpieces, is probably the best one.
Right,
that
and
I own.
I don't even collect those 86 figures or anything like that, and I look at that and I'm like, I don't know how they did the engineering so well, watching them transform it. It's really cool. And that's been one of the coolest things is, kind of seeing all of these different variations of Transformers for me. I was into it as a kid and then didn't get back into it until college, honestly. And, seeing all of these different iterations and variations, and now that we're getting an Overgear variation, which is, in my opinion, probably the coolest one yet. I absolutely can't wait. And, if you guys have any thoughts about, like, I don't know who you want to see next, what you want to see next, what would be next,
So, I don't mean to cut you off, my apologies.
No, you're good, man.
But to that end, in terms of who we got first, is really interesting.
That is, yeah.
It being Ironhide and Blackout. Now, I would venture to say that neither of those characters in and of themselves are some of the most popular characters. And so to that end, there's a part of me that doesn't really get why we didn't get Optimus and Bumblebee first, or Optimus and Megatron. Now, I'm not upset about that at all, because Blackout has a very near and dear place to my heart, and I loved Ironhide, especially like from that '07 movie, like created my love for that character.
Absolutely.
But it's interesting where they started, and I wonder if they're gonna eventually go back and do Optimus, Megatron, Bumblebee, Starscream, or if they're just going to do not lesser known characters, because Ironhide and Blackout are not unknowns at all, but
yeah, and I don't know. I'm actually kind of glad that they didn't, right? Because again, that kind of sets a parameter where it can be anyone, anything, And we've had a lot of Optimuses. We're about to get a Gundam-inspired Optimus, I believe. I don't know if that may not be right. Evangelic, whatever it is.
Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Neon Genesis.
Yeah.
I was going to say evangelical. But yeah, and it looks really cool. And I'm honestly really theorizing that they're going to reuse that mold for the evasion mode. And they're going to obviously have to change it up a lot. But like, I don't know. But I'm excited, and I really am excited to get them painted, see what they look like, see what the prices are going to be, see what the scaling's going to be, and I really want to know what you guys have to say about it, because I don't know. I don't see a ton of people talking about it, and it's awesome. And if you have any thoughts, just let me know. You got anything to add before we close?
No, I think we hit everything.
Awesome. All right, you guys have a great one.